Okay, here we are. I was on Chad's live stream a little bit this morning, and I have some found time because it's raining and my work got pushed out. And so I wanted to talk about this is something that came up yesterday, and it's come up in Chad's live streams a few times. And it's something that I was thinking about when Michael was saying the other day that he was disappointed with how many views his guy, the wrestler video was getting. And then it came up a little bit this morning, and so obviously it's on my mind. It's something that I'm thinking about. And it's the way of the intellect versus the way of the person. And it's I suppose you could call it an epistemology of love, and an epistemology that's rooted in relational ontology versus trying to figure things out from first principles or the intellect or something like that. I had taken a screenshot. What up, Dog McMo? I was actually thinking about you, brother. So if I open this up, we can maybe chat about it for a little bit. I don't have a ton of time. So Nathan Jacobs, so many people that are intimate with the coroner who've been around for a while will know who Nathan Jacobs is. Paul's had a few conversations with him. He had a conversation with him recently. He just started doing this podcast called the Nathan Jacobs Podcast. I don't know him personally very well. We don't have like an ongoing relationship. I was privileged to have a longer unreleased conversation with him and Cassidy at one point, which I don't really remember what I was talking about, but it's a good illustration. So I want to say this. I mean, I tagged him in this because I don't want to just put him on blast without tagging him. And this gets into a lot of my Lukeisms and things that I like to talk about. Because I had this thought yesterday, and now I want to cage this in this way. This is a tough thing because what I'm going to be doing here, and this is why people often think I'm often accused of being hypocritical or contradictory, and I am. But that is because I am trying to illustrate and live into what I call iconic knowing and Christologic, like what Jordan Daniel Wood talks about, Christologic, the identity of identity and non-identity, and the dialectics, and I think it's because human beings and what it means to be human and what being itself is almost like Christ, the eternal Tao. It's this coincidence of opposites. And so, or it's like you can be right and be wrong, or be wrong and be right. I started listening. So very often I'm working now and I'm outside, and for whatever reason, a lot of times I have very terrible service, which is annoying. So, like I was trying to listen to Mark and Clara's second conversation the other day. And number one, I have old phones, and YouTube takes up a lot of battery, data, all sorts of stuff. And so I was trying to actively listen to their YouTube video, and it just drained my phone incredibly. So I downloaded all these podcasts. I downloaded a bunch of Nathan Jacobs podcasts. I started listening to them, and what to say? I don't want to say things too sharply. I'm just going to say it how it comes out. They were boring to me. And it's not because they're not interesting in a certain spirit. And what I want to get at is like, this is how you can be right and be wrong, or be wrong and be right. I would argue in love that to approach knowing in a abstract ideas, principle first, logic, philosophical way is a misordered way to try to pursue proper knowing. And proper knowing comes through the epistemology of love. It comes through love. It comes through self-emptying. Kenosis by kenosis. So your self-emptying, this is what I said the other day to some friends in a Signal chat, but I said, it's me trying to relate the Zitsum, how do you say it? Chezi, you hear my boy? the zitzum, the self-emptying of God to make space for others. I think practically the reality of that is there's the self-emptying of God, and then in Jesus Christ you have the first fruits of new creation, and you have the self-emptying of man. And so what it means to be a man is like, behold the human being, Christ crucified. Love has nothing greater than this, than to give up yourself for your brothers and for your enemies. And I think this is something we all know. Parenting, the most basic thing is in parenting and creating the new generation, in procreation, in reproduction. A parent, like Tim Keller said, you'll either choose your own becoming, you'll either choose your own life at the detriment of your children in an either or zero-sum way, or in self-emptying love, you will foster and give your life for your children. And that is the finding of your life. He who lays down his life for my sake will gain it. In losing your life for the sake of Christ, you gain all things. And so the point that I want to get at here, and this is funny because I'm going to say this in abstract philosophical language. I mean, I just try to really ground it in personal knowing and familial relationships. But like, this is a little bit of my beef of a way to cage it as Christian YouTube versus TLC. And what I was saying to Michael and Chad the other day in the chat, and even what I was saying to Mark and Clara, what makes TLC special? And this is what I would say to Clara. This is like a main point that I would make to you in a conversation with you. TLC is modeling, and this isn't the Jordan Peterson sphere, this is the Paul Vanderklay sphere, because of Rando's conversation, because of getting to know persons, and then having personal relational conversations, not abstract intellectual ideological conversations, personal conversations like this morning when Chad is laying out his insecurities in a conversation that and his experience of going to this AA meeting and then going to Denny's afterwards. Those are personal relational conversations, talking about your family, talking about the mundane issues of your life. That's the real. That's the personal knowing. It's not talking about like, oh gosh, I just want to list some of these to illustrate, and then I want to talk about patristic ordo, and I don't have a lot of time, then I want to open this up. So like, I just downloaded a bunch of his podcasts. And again, Dr. Jacobs, Nathan, my acquaintance and perhaps future friend. Like, what is interesting about this isn't putting, I'm not trying to shit on you, but I am using you as an illustration because I don't think this is the proper way of knowing. And you've said as much in conversations with Paul. Like, you've said, it's almost like a distinction of a theologian in the East is a holy person. Well, what is a holy person? One who gives of themselves, self-emptying love for others, for other people. But then when we have a podcast and we talk about, and it's fine. Like, it's fine. You can do that. But like, if you're trying to teach and to give understanding, I think you need to model a personalist approach. This is my big shtick. You have to vulnerably talk about intimate relational details of your life. Because if relational ontology is true, then to teach from a first principles intellectual mode is to miss the mark, And so like, the myth of the Enlightenment, liberalism and the demise of the West, language and cultural appropriation, which is the one that I started. I got about halfway through it, and I was just thinking, like, I've been so formed over the past 5 years by TLC that I was just like, here's the thing, factually, logically, I probably agree with, I don't know, over 90% of everything Nathan Jacobs is going to say, but I don't care about it. I've stopped caring about it. Because I just don't think it matters when it's disconnect. Because like, what does it mean? The person is the nexus and the locus of all meaning. If you're trying to pursue meaning apart from the person, so I'm just like, Dr. Jacobs, talk about yourself. Talk about your relationships. And maybe this is me like trying to. This is what I want to do. I want to talk about myself. I want to talk about relationships. I want to do these weird circumambulating mosaic, like, because I am talking about philosophy and ideas, and then I'm talking about personal, relational, and I'm saying two things. I'm criticizing and I'm not criticizing, because it's fine. It's free to do this, but there is a trend, and I think this will change. And this is my shamanistic prophetic idea of what Clara is looking at in TLC. This is what I'd say, and what she needs to look for is it's a leaning into the personal stories and narratives and examples, which will touch on ideas, which will touch on. This is the difference between, I think, confessionalism and personalist iconic symbols of the faith. Is it's a symbol of the faith allows for the God of your own understanding. A confession does not allow for the God of your own understanding. That's what I would say. Unless you hold a confession iconically, and then it becomes a symbol. This has always been my beef with PBK about confessionalism. As long as you're pursuing confessionalism, you are seeking understanding in the realm of the intellect, and you do not yet know as you ought to know. That's what I would say briefly. And so, the other thing I want to talk about is the patristic ordo, which I don't really remember really well. A local buddy who I'm going to be hanging out with tomorrow, I'll ask him again to remind me of it, and I'll take notes, because he is one of those guys who's more well-read and technically smart than me. And so he can remember these things in a didactic kind of linear way. But this is a big difference between the East and the West, apparently. And I tried to find this article. I'll maybe just read through some of it here. I'll copy a link. I'll maybe post it here and read some of it as like here, let me share the screen, and it'll be a way of presenting what I'm trying to talk about. I don't know if this is exactly right, but I mean, we'll see it. Okay, is this working? Do we see it? Okay. An orthodox theory of knowledge. Again, okay, this isn't Sam, everybody else who think this is an ortho bro thing. I say ortho bro, you say ortho bra, whatever. The God of your own understanding. I'm talking about orthodoxy because I'm Orthodox, and because I'm seeking to be Orthodox, and I'm still very evangelical. I said that to someone recently. Maybe my conversation with Ron and Neil from yesterday that I popped in for a while, a little bit, where you get low key. You don't get this, Luke. You get tired end of the day, Luke. And I don't again hold whatever I'm saying. Hold it iconically. If it works for you, it works for you. How's it working? The Corey and Chad conversation. If the orthodoxy or the language or whatever doesn't work for you, forget about it. Filter it through your own thing, because you have to anyhow. So I was trying to find in here. Okay, this is not exactly what I'm looking for, and maybe they'll have another. There's 2 of 6. Ordo Theologica. Is that all we're gonna get? I'm looking for the patristic ordo, an epistemology of classical foundationalism. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be really obnoxious. This is the kind of article that I'm talking about. Like this is seeking knowing through definitions and abstract ideas, which is not proper knowing. This is why Aquinas at the end of his life said it's like all straw. But if you know as you are known, if you know relationally and personally, then that is the equivalence of holiness. And whether or not you can articulate anything, you know properly because you love. That's the epistemology of love. So I don't think this is exactly what I'm looking for. So sorry, I'm just going to scrap it. And I'm going to riff and try to do my own thing. The patristic ordo, I believe, is that it's an order of operations of how proper knowledge works. And it's that you don't reason from principles to patterns to persons. You reason from persons. It's the inverse. So you start with the person. And so the way to say that abstractly, but it's not abstract because it's also personal, is because McLuhan, I quote this all the time, Jesus Christ is the place where the medium and the message are one, and so are all people. That's Christ in me, or the divine spark, or whatever. Again, my dear Jewish brothers, say whatever you need to say. the person is the thing that you know. And then from that, you can deduce analytically in a left-brained way principles and patterns, and you can know that stuff abstractly. But that's the problem with abstract knowledge, is it's always disengaged. It's always a degree separate. It's always abstract. Knowing the person is never abstract. It can be abstracted, but it is a knowledge of radical empiricism, phenomenological. You know a person. This is what, like, Jordan Daniel Wood will always talk about with knowledge of his wife. It's an infinite fount of knowledge. And he's like, just because, or Paul will often say, from being married, however long Paul's been married, 30 years, something like that, or I've been married 20 years. I know my wife more and less than I've ever known her. And I know her in different ways, and she's still a mystery to me. And that's because a person is an infinite fount of knowledge. In your unknowing, you know them, because it's that paradox. It's that simultaneous reciprocity of Christ, the eternal Tao, and that's what a person is. But that's how your knowledge of everything is. This is why the first tottering step towards proper knowing, George MacDonald Lilith, is to realize that no man understands anything. And then you can move toward the capacity of one day understanding. It is very abstract. It is very abstract. And that's why I said, if you go back to the beginning, depending on where you jumped in, I'm going to be doing and explaining things in an abstract way. Because here's the thing, this is why I'm not anti-propositional, but I am anti-propositionalism. This is why I'm not anti-confessions. I'm anti-confessionalism. And then, like I said, it turns into a symbol. Okay. I could keep riffing. No, Nathan. Okay, I'm going to put this out, and I might have to go at any moment. So Nathan is not the digital gnosis dude. That is Nathan Ormond. That's how Jacob pronounced his name the other day, and that's what I want to go with. He's a Brit. He's a British dude. We've always said Nathan Ormond, but Jacob pronounced it Nathan Ormond, and I like that more, so I want to go with it. Nathan Jacobs is a guy who came into the corner because I shared with Paul this series of talks that he did for the Midwest Orthodox, for a bunch of Midwest Orthodox priests on reaching the nuns. So if you YouTube it, let me find it quick. I have it saved, actually. It's saved as a series on my channel. But it's called, if you just YouTube Nathan Jacobs Reaching the Nuns, and not N-U-N-S. Yeah. So here, I'll share the screen. Reaching the Nuns. If you just, present, share screen, Reaching the Nuns. So right here, Reaching the Nuns. It's on Ancient Faith. So this is, what's so great about things is, that's our former bishop, memory eternal. And, but he presented, it's a 3-part series, and it's based on this research that he was doing, because he's a filmmaker. He's an artist. That's a little picture of him there. There you go. That's his face. And here, 5 years ago, he had a conversation with Paul. So this is stemming from those conversations. So I shared those with Paul Vanderklay, the Reaching the Nuns videos, and he watched them, and they're very, very good. So essentially, the nuns, what he means by that is it's a sociological term of it's the people who no longer, it's like spiritual but not religious people. So it's people, as religious polling in the U.S. has, throughout the years, this increasing category of the nuns, people who had no religious affiliation. So they would call themselves, very often they're spiritual, but they're not religious. And so it's people who are like, I don't call myself Christian. I don't call myself whatever. It's the urban monoculture. It's the secular age. It's the, these people, James Lindsay, the Tom Holland, the people who are post-Christian, who identify as nothing, and it's largely a Western category, I think. I would almost be positive that it's almost an exclusively Western category, because it's stemming from Christianity. So like post-Christian, ex-evangelicals, a lot of people, but when you take this poll of what religious category do you identify with, and they'll say none. So it's the rise of the nuns, and he does all this research on reaching them, and he made a documentary film about it. But it's a really great series of lectures that he presented to this Midwest diocese of priests. It was very good. All right, what else we got here? William, good morning. Don't reach for the nuns. Correct. McMo. There are no smart people. Yes. Almond tree. Why so early? Because I get up early now. That's what happens. I woke up before my alarm. I woke up at like 4:40. It's ridiculous. Because I'm an old man. That's what old men do. Old people, they wake up early or they don't sleep. I hope that doesn't happen. I normally, as Mark Driscoll used to say, I sleep like a Calvinist, which is in constant fear and anxiety over the fate of my soul and salvation and for all of those around me. Dig, Calvinists. JK, I love you. McMo. Oh, Nathan Jacobs. I like his vibe, but he leans a little heavily on his professional prolificity. It's an interesting way to say it. Like that. So this is what I've said, and this is kind of putting Nathan Jacobs on blast. But I've said, I've had this before. There's a different. You learn it in these live streams, and you learn it in TLC conversations. It's not just sharing information. You have to. It's this dance. It's like dancing. You have to make space for the other to say what they're going to say. They can't just merely be a foil for like intellectual talking points. Or like a sounding board. It's the difference between, I often say conversationally, it's like between playing tennis with someone or just hitting the ball against the wall. Like if you have a conversation where you're just like essentially hitting a ball against the wall and just waiting to say whatever you're going to say, or they say something, and then it's always, and to some degree, it always has to be self-relational, but like something I always try to pay attention to. And if people come on here, like this is a case in point. Ask questions, like ask genuine questions of the other person. Stuff that you don't know the answer to. That's not just rhetorical. That's not just trying to illustrate one of your points. Ask something you don't know of the other person. Make space for the other person. It's the feminine side of a conversation. And I think the TLC should be really great at that. PBK, the randos conversation is like the center burning heart of the TLC. and I guess this is one other point that I want to say is it's interesting of how this is what I've been saying in Chad's live streams is like I think a lot of people in the TLC still don't get it. The hardcores get it, I think, because they show up for those conversations, they show up they're here for the people. So like the people that they know and love, they want to watch those conversations, they want to go on Discord and just have unrecorded conversations with people in the voice chats and just talk to them about stuff. It's about, it's about your life. It's about your kids. It's about your whatever. It's not, and it will touch on ideas, but it's not just a bunch of different people giving an intellectual lecture about X topic. Like that kind of stuff is increasingly not as interesting to me. Like I want to talk to Parlato. I want to talk to McMo. I want to talk to, Steven or, whomever. Okay, I'm trying to read these. Okay. The way that can be spoken is not the way of the person. Well, it can and cannot, like you can, it's that Rob Bellism that I love to quote is like, God is he about whom we must never speak, but we must always keep speaking, which I don't know. I'm assuming he got from someone else, but I said, as is anything, because anything that you have a relationship with, it's relational. And so things, but it has to have a emptiness and a self-emptying that allows for the further up and the further in, and air manifestation for the right brain to be the master, and for you to know it in a way that you didn't previously know it, which is the spiral and the dialectic. And that is the relationship that is knowing and unknowing, that allows for science, actually. That's what allows for science, T-Grog. If you think that you know, you do not yet know as you ought to know. And if science is not open to new understandings, it's not science. It's scientism, and it's dogma. So, all right, onward. Putter in the kitchen. That's what I was doing this morning. I was doing a little puttering. Making coffee, puttering. Old is relative, William. I mean, I'm kind of old. I'm middle-aged, I guess, probably, technically. Yeah, I am in my 40s. I'm old enough to realize that I can't just, like a spry little whippersnapper, jump up high on things. Mark, you want to show off how smarty pants you are? Why? What did you say? Randos are the only aspect of this that my wife understands. Yeah. Well, and it's the personal is the only thing that scales, it's why, this is why listen for the tells that people say, like the Weinsteins and the Brett Weinstein and the hierarchy of the smart guys, religion's just a heuristic, that it's for the dumb people, we smart people, and sometimes metamodernism can sound like this to me a little bit, and Brandon, if you watch us, Graham Dempsey, you blessed, beautiful man. I often know that I have a avatar short understanding of metamodernism and yourself, and that when you double click on those things in a conversation with you, and when I open space for you in that feminine way, you tend to show me more nuance and deeper understanding. Why am I talking to you if you watch this? But it's a lot of times it's like this, the Luke from New York. It's a really old, let's find it. It's a really old randos conversation with Paul Vanderklay. Will it show up? The algorithm? Okay, only my talks show up. Let's find it. Let's do it. Paul Vanderklay Luke. What would I search for? This is like the algorithm. There's my first video on Paul's channel. My very first conversation with Paul, though, is not there. It's on, oh, look, see, here's my third conversation with him or something. And it's with old Nathan E. Jacobs there. Look, he's in the thumbnail. A lot of old conversations with Jeff and Job. Ooh, here's my first conversation, but it's on Grail Country. Look at that. Look younger. People were making fun of me because I was all buttoned up looking. I presented myself for Paul in that conversation. Had a lot of conversations with Paul. It's not going to show up. See, this is the thing. You'd have to reach back deep in the archives, because I'm sure the title, I remember the guy's face, that Paul had a conversation with. But anyhow, there's a different Luke from New York, and he said this little quip that's always stuck with me. And he said, pay attention to what people say when they're not paying attention. And Jordan Peterson says some very similar things all the time, because then it reveals, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. But it's only when people aren't paying attention with their prefrontal cortex, with their conscious, self-aware mind. It's like in the flow of a conversation, or when they're distracted, or it's just like when the words come out, because otherwise they'll just be getting Sunday school answers. Like if you ask someone a very direct conversation about what they think about something, and this is all my Peter Rollins stuff, it's probably not what they think. It's what they think they think. Same is probably true for me. I think it's true for most everybody, probably, unless somebody's fully integrated. if you actually know in an articulable, Polanyi's modernist assumptions of knowledge, in a conscious, articulable, propositional way, what you really believe, you are one. Probably you're a very integrated person, and you're probably very holy. And then as you are known, and all's well. Go be a saint to the world, I guess. But when people are just talking and they're not paying attention to what they're saying, they will reveal to you things. This is why we have psychology and the subconscious and all these things that we don't know. But this is why in psychoanalysis, that's what psychoanalysts do, is they have this space of non-judgment, and other people start talking a bunch. My boy, my local friend, he's probably watching me live stream right now. He just pulled up outside and he's going to work. He's driving by my house and he knew I was live streaming and he stopped outside my front window. Hey, I'm going to out you. I'm going to turn the camera around. Keep driving. That's right. Psychoanalysts. They get you talking in a place of non-judgment. And then when people are not being judged, they get out of their conscious awareness where they're really filtering what they say. And then they just start talking. And then you find out what they actually believe and what they actually think. It's really blustering out there. I can't remember why I brought that up. Okay, more comments. I have to prep and stage my material. I can't be spontaneous. Don't tell me that I can't be me. Okay. That's been one of the ideas for my channel, is that I should be more planned with some things, or at least I can do this. I should do this, but I should also do planned things. Oh, you little cutie. I'm a spiral sus. I don't even know what that means. Tenacious D. Is it Tenacious D? No, what is it? Who said that? I know my calculus, you plus me equals us. This is how my mind works. Ooh, together. Let's watch this. Can we? Can you play videos without... who cares about this? This is such an old thing. How old is this? 13 years ago. This is a good thing. Let's do it.
I'm losing my hair and my vision is shady. Last night I dreamt of an overweight lady, but I need a young thing to keep up with my pace, to hold me in her
Naughty. Sorry.
arms and take me straight to second base. I know my calculus, it says you plus me equals us.
Here we go.
Singing chair phone, man.
What a great song. What a banger. I was really into boy bands at one point. Well, I'm still into boy bands. I'm not going to lie. McMo, get in here. We can talk about music. We can talk about boy bands. Your favorite boy band?
My favorite boy band, probably the Beatles.
Is it together? You plus me equals us? I know my calculus.
Yes. Yeah, it's not that. It's literally you and me. Actually, you and me. That's my favorite boy band.
Oh man, do you know the boy band One Direction, which was like the CCM boy band? Oh my god.
Wait, One Direction is
No, not One Direction. What's their name?
There was...
What's the Christian boy band? Because I liked one of their songs.
Yeah, my little sister had a couple. Jump 5 is the one that came to mind. Jump 5, I think, they had some girls in there too.
Sarah Hardy, where are you? She knows who this is. What's the Christian boy band? Christian boy bands. Let's find it. Plus One. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Us plus Jesus. What is the song I really love from Plus One songs? Plus One.
Oh, it is Plus One.
Come on. I don't want some dumb movie. Last Flight Out. This is the song. This is a banger. Let's do it. I mean, none of these things are bangers. What's the new term? Is banger like an antiquated term now?
It's fading away, but it still works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm saying something old and cringy, please help me.
Well, I've only got a couple years left. I feel like before I'm doing the same.
Let's sing this together. Do you know this one?
No.
Come on.
I've probably forgotten this.
I'm so scared that you will see all the weakness inside of me. I'm so scared of letting
handsome.
go, that the pain I feel will show. Oh, I know you want to hear me speak.
We gotta wait till we get to the hook. You know how this works.
We're gonna get copyright. You're gonna get a.
I'll never stop. I want you to know you belong in my life.
Okay, it's really good. And by really good, I mean really good.
Sick.
I really do. Sometimes this is like a thing that I've wanted to do, is have a just conversation with you about music where we're just fucking around, playing around. We're talking like serious, because I do. Why is am I double speaking?
It's probably me. Hold on. I gotta try to get my earbuds to connect. They're not wanting to work right now, so give me a second. I'm still listening.
Here we go. Yeah, this is the ultimate boy band, the 12 Disciples. That's right. Mark, come back. Boy bands. We could talk about other things. I just think that it's so Backstreet Boys. I like a lot of Backstreet Boys things. I was a big NSYNC guy, although I liked all of them, man. See, this is the thing, is you can. I don't know what is it, because like if you tried to say like within a proper, he disappeared. If you have a good day, folks. He cut out because of the boy bands. Okay. I don't know how much longer I have. Probably, well, yeah, like 10 minutes. I gotta leave. So 10 more minutes, unless Lance happens to show up and do something. But music is one of those things that, again, it's personal. So like you can have hierarchies of expertise and technical proficiency that show like why X music is better than other music. And I think that stuff is cool. But at the end of the day, it's just like people like what they like. And that's not an apologetic for bad music or like even bad food. The way that I would equate it is food. You know, you may like McDonald's. It may be a guilty pleasure, while at the same time because your gut biome and your palate has been trained and acclimated toward craving things that aren't really good. Same's true in music, but it just is what it is. You know, I'm not saying that objectively +1 is quality music. I'm just saying it's nostalgic for me and I enjoy it. Yes, I do have places to go and things to do. It's a job, you know. Boys to Men. Yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? So awesome. So I don't know. McMo's probably not gonna come back. But anyhow, I guess I'll just wrap this up. I do want to have a silly music conversation with McMo. Also, if you want to know Riesling, what are we talking about? I mean, the wine Riesling. What's up, my friend? Also good to see you. I do like the wine Riesling. Tayo will need to save the day. Well, yeah, I haven't seen him yet. He's, too busy out on Speaker's Corner or something. So again, Dr. Nathan Jacobs, I love you. Oh, McMo, come in here. Help me close this out.
What are we? Sorry, my stuff is still not working.
Oh,
but what are we closing out?
Well, I have to leave in
Oh, great.
like, well, I mean, let's do, unless someone shows up, I gotta leave in like 10 minutes because I gotta drive to work. But yeah,
Why did you send me that? Why did you send me that Rick Beato video?
oh yeah,
Were you trying to make me mad?
no, I wasn't because I think he makes a lot of solid points, and I'm interested in it. But I also know that you're younger than me. You have a different perspective on a lot of this stuff. It can just be like an old man ranting about the good old days and new music. So I want to, because I'm constantly looking for pushback on my perspective. I really am, you know, like
Yeah.
I tend to be Luddite, anti-technological, and I've shifted on that because of all this stuff and TLC and people pushing on me. And it's the same with
Well,
music. That's what I was wanting from you.
it was good timing because I think it really preps me well for the whole Dirt Poor Robins. What's his name? Neil deGrasse. That was on Christian's channel yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Which they're pretty good. You know, I don't. He was like, I don't like shitting on artists, and then he like shat on Taylor Swift for a solid like 10 minutes, which was hilarious. But yeah, there's a. So I have two issues. One is that I agree with him when he talks about the industry and the way that labels and streaming has completely taken away any incentive for, you know, sweat of the brow excellence, you know, the hard work that it actually takes to get good at something.
Mm-hmm.
Where I disagreed with him is the blaming it all on technology and like the ease of making music now, which is true. Like it's really easy to make music. Now you can just type something in, a couple words into an AI and it'll give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But there also does often I've heard him more than once just not get something that was just awesome. You know, it was just like high energy and the lyrics were cool, but because it was auto-tuned or because it had a trap beat, you know,
Yeah.
he was kind of like, this is cheap stuff. This is nothing. But it's so yeah, that's probably where I get a little bit of, for Rick Beato at least, that's where I get a little bit of my bitterness towards him. But also just the fact that Lance loves him also makes it fun to hate on him just because I can, you know, be like, Lance is a boomer.
And I mean, that's obviously going to happen. That's my own pushback to myself is you know, and this is your kind of avatar version of my understanding of music. And what I like is you know, stuff with country influence, but also has a singer-songwriter thing. It's folksy. Like I love that stuff, but I also love a lot of other things. And I grew up in a time of huge different styles and influences. And but like new stuff, like I don't get rap, you know, like it's just not my thing. I mean, like old school Dr. Dre stuff, like I was listening to that like everybody else and Snoop and like those guys, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, there's something weird that happens for most people. I think that by the time you're kind of 30, like my age, and I can feel it kind of starting to happen to me.
Yeah.
And for some people, it probably happens earlier. But like the new music just starts to not connect, and you just really what you want is something that's going to bring you a sense of nostalgia, or take you back to a time and place. But I think that even that it can be incorporated with at least music, like. The internet has sped up the nostalgia process to about 2 or 3 years at this point. It's like you could be nostalgic for like something that happened last week, because of how fast things change. But yeah, there's something, I think it has to do with the idea of there being like the avant-garde. Like some people like avant-garde art. I'm one of those people. I really like weird art that, you know, makes me uncomfortable, is not necessarily, you know, the easiest thing to ingest or to perceive. Looks like these gas station boys are about to get working. I probably got to go home. But I didn't want to start my car in case you couldn't hear me. But yeah, I think that there's something just about like, and that's not even to say that you can't have like good conservative art. You know, like I listen to classical music all the time. Like I love Beethoven and Bach. You know.
Yeah.
And
Like, I can't do that. Like, that's one of those things where I know it's good, and I mean, there's obviously cultural classical music that everyone knows that I appreciate like everyone else because it's just imbued into our culture. But, like, I'm not that's one of those things where I know it's good. I know classical is good, but I don't enjoy it because I don't have whatever's in me, it's deep calls to deep. I don't have the resonant skill and trained habits and patterns and knowledge to appreciate what I know is good, but I know it's good.
you're a low class folk hero. You know, you need the acoustic guitar around the fire. You don't want to go into the big city where they've got instruments and skilled musicians.
But that's not all, because like that's what like Emily just asked me, did I have a Nine Inch Nails phase? Hell yeah, I did. I love Nine Inch Nails.
There you go. There you go.
You know, there's a lot of things that I'm into. I want to ask you, okay, I just want to ask you this, and then I got to go. The album I'm obsessed with right now, and my boy Mitch Caps knows this because he's obsessed with it, is this one. It's called Medium Build Country. Have you listened to this album?
Nope, I've been meaning to because you keep mentioning the homie. I watched the video you posted. I thought it was
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good. I thought it was pretty good.
That's one of my favorite songs of his, which is not on this album, but it's really good.
Yeah, and this is not going to make any sense probably to anybody but me, but he reminded me a little bit of Billy Strings, and I'm not
Yeah.
even a Billy Strings guy. It was like, so I couldn't tell you one song. It's just kind of the similar. There was a similar vibe there, but I could be wrong.
He's very redneck. He leans into that. Like um I don't know. Like but he's clearly a smart dude. Like I've listened to enough interviews and stuff of him where he's sharp, which I relate to him too. You know, I'm very blue collar, rednecky, but
Sharp.
you know, but that ain't dumb, you know? So all right,
Yeah.
brother. Well, it's good to see you. I'm glad you jumped on because I've been thinking about you and wanting to talk to you more. So I'm glad it happened, even if it was brief. So,
Here I am. Good to see
all
you,
right.
bud.
Peace out, everyone.
Bye.
I love you.